What is going on, guys? Back with another video. We're going to be recapping the Super Bowl. What a phenomenal game that was. It just ended about 10 minutes ago. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Rams. I predicted this actually before the game. I predicted a one-possession game, probably less than 4 points. I predicted three-point game. That's exactly what it was. 23-20 Rams. Unbelievable. I had a feeling it was going to come down to that defense and Aaron Donald and Von Miller applying that pressure. And, they went all in this year, and it turned out for the best. I mean, got Matthew Stafford, got Odell Beckham, got Von Miller. All these acquisitions mid-season was, the best thing possible for this team. And they were unbelievable for them, all three huge contributors. I just want to give a shout-out to Cooper Kupp. I mean, Cooper Kupp, in my opinion, could have been, MVP of the NFL this year. He was the only non-quarterback that got any vote for MVP. And you could make the case that, he was the most valuable player in the league this year. I mean, yet again, 8 catches for 92 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's turned into like an automatic thing with Cooper Kupp that we're just like accustomed to him getting almost 10 catches for over 100 yards and a score. He's done it in almost every game this year. I've done it in almost every playoff game. He's been nothing short of phenomenal this year for them. The Rams, though, like I said, went all in, and it turned out Matthew Stafford, trading him, making a very tough decision, trading Jared Goff and all those picks. They went all in. They mortgaged their future for this season, and look what happened. It turned out to be the best decision they ever made. Matthew Stafford is now a Super Bowl winner. Let's talk about the Bengals a little bit before we wrap up here. I thought the Bengals played really good. No one expected them to be anywhere near as good as they were this year. I mean, they went to the Super Bowl from having, a guy on injured reserve with a torn ACL. Joe Burrow brought them this far. In my opinion, actually outplayed Matthew Stafford for the majority of the game. I just want to talk about the lack of non-calls. I want to know if anyone noticed this. And up until that last drive, I mean, I've never seen a worse officiated game than this. I mean, from my perspective, there was 5 or 6 minimum defensive holdings that were not called. They finally called them the last drive because it was getting to a point where it was getting egregious. Both sides were holding. That touchdown for T. Higgins, that huge 75-yarder, I mean, that's blatant. That's obvious. Of course that was offensive pass interference. The guy literally face masked them, T. Higgins, and threw Jalen Ramsey to the ground. I don't know what was going on in this game, man. They were literally not calling anything, and it was getting to a point where it was so frustrating. I'm not a fan of either team, but it really, really seemed to hurt the Rams for the majority of that game. Comment, guys, what you guys think about this. I think this is a great, great Super Bowl. It's one of those games where it's not like constant scoring or constant defense. It was kind of like a back and forth, and I thought it was a great game. Yes, it wasn't the most exciting game, but it was a grind in order to get this win, and that's what the season's became this year for football fans. I mean, it seemed like every team was grinding out wins. The Bengals did it all season long. The Rams did it all season long. They went on a stretch where the Rams were not playing good. I think they lost 3 games straight. I think it was October where this happened, and they didn't look great at all, and they recouped, and look where they are now. They're Super Bowl champions. Aaron Donald, such a phenomenal player, arguably the best player in the league. And, it comes to show why he's so valuable, because he literally wrecked that game. I mean, up until the third quarter, he was involved getting triple teamed, but, not nearly as much. That last quarter and a half, it was all Donald. Donald, to me, is, probably one of the best offensive players I think I've ever seen ever, in my opinion, personally, because, I mean, from what I've seen and, I think that he factors into the game, as a defensive tackle, edge rusher sometimes. He puts so much pressure on every play. It's unbelievable. And like I said, Von Miller being on this team helped a lot. Sure, he got 1 sack this game, but he had multiple quarterback pressures, and I thought he played phenomenal as well. It really showed, though, back to my first point with Odell going down, having no Robert Woods either kills them, because as soon as Beckham went down, it was so stagnant. They really have nowhere else. I mean, Bryce Hopkins was their third receiver in Darrell Henderson. I haven't even seen these guys all year long. Darrell Henderson, I haven't seen in like 8 weeks. Cam Akers and Michelle like took over for him, and he ended up being the fourth leading receiver. He had like 43 yards on 3 catches, which was weird. So I think that, when Odell went down, it was kind of like, oh, man, like, what do we do now? How can we get Cooper Kupp the ball? And that last drive really solidified that. I think he got the ball 3 or 4 straight catches in a row. Obviously, he had that game-winning touchdown, which is that beautiful back shoulder. Arguably, Matthew Stafford and Kupp probably have top 3 connection all-time quarterback to receiver, because what they did this year is so unheard of. And, especially from the year prior with, Goff, Kupp's always been a good receiver. He had that year that he was out for the year of the torn ACL. But other than that, this year with Stafford, he blossomed into, like, the best receiver in the league. And, that's why I think he could have gotten some MVP votes just based off of what he did this year. It was like, he almost had 1,900. What was his stats this year? He had like 100 and I'm going to double check it right now. So 145 for 1947 and 16 scores. It's just so ridiculous. And that was the biggest thing. If they didn't have Cooper Kupp on this team, I don't know where they would be, because it's just, he's such a difference maker. He's literally like automatic getting the ball like 8 times a game for over 100 yards. And if you just somehow replace that with literally anyone else, it would be significantly worse. And, Kupp, to me, like I mentioned before, this game, Donald and Kupp definitely were co-MVPs in my opinion. I think Kupp, if you're going to give one, give it to Cooper Kupp, just based on that last drive alone was unbelievable. But Donald really wrecked the game in the second half. I think you can also give him a co-MVP, because I think they were both equal as important in this game. When you look at the Bengals, let's talk quickly about the Bengals and what went wrong for them this game. And I think 2 things. I really think that, going back to, the draft this year, obviously Jamar Chase panned out drastically. Everyone was saying they should have drafted Penny Sewell. They should have drafted an offensive lineman to help Burrow. And honestly, you can say this game, it factored in, drastically. They cannot protect him still. It's just, he still gets destroyed. He's been sacked, I think, 12 times going into the game, 9 times versus the Titans alone. I think he got sacked 6 or 7 times today. 7 times Joe Burrow got sacked. And you can't have, your franchise quarterback getting hit that frequently. And I think that's what ruined the game. And until they improve this offensive line 100%, this is going to be a problem for them. And that was the reason, in my opinion, if you were to pick one thing, that's why they lost. They could not protect them in the second half whatsoever. And that's why I was even saying before the year, they need to draft a lineman. He was just out with a torn ACL. They could not protect him at all last year. Comes back this year. I was very concerned. Jamar Chase obviously turned out to be, a fantastic receiver, a top 5 receiver in the league. So you can't say that pick was bad by any means. But, you can say that, they still haven't figured out the line. The line's been okay. The only reason why it's looked as good as it has is because Joe Burrow gets rid of the ball very quick. And another thing I noticed with the Bengals, they play very big play dependent. And I think this can be used against them a lot because, aside from, that huge play to Chase and that huge play to T. Higgins, they were kind of stagnant. They had a majority of the yard. I think he had 130 yards with those 2 passes alone. He only threw for 263. So, they pretty much are kind of like a team where it's like, it's weird because they have Tyler Boyd. T. Higgins, I think, is a possession receiver. I don't really think he's a big play receiver always. I think Jamar Chase is more of that big play receiver. But Joe Mixon also decent, 4.8. When you look at the stats, neither team ran the ball well. Obviously, the Rams were atrocious in running the ball. Cam Akers, 13 carries for 21 yards, 1.6 average. That's embarrassing. Joe Mixon actually had 4.8 per carry, so not bad. But when you look back at that game, they didn't run the ball well efficiently either. You could say, he averaged 4.8, which is not bad, almost 5 yards per carry. But I still don't think it was an efficient 15 carries. And I also think that factored into the game. They could not get that going. But, the Rams, kudos to them. They kind of controlled the game in the second half, and they ended up coming out on top. The Bengals will be back. All those Cincinnati fans out there, don't worry. Joe Burrow will be back. They're just going to get better and better. The Rams is a little concerning to me because they're older. They went all in this year. A lot of their guys, I don't even know if they'll be back next year. So we'll see what happens with that. But by far, I think the Bengals are going to be a top team next year. Depending on who stays in the Rams, obviously I could see the same thing happening. Hopefully Odell Beckham's injury is not too bad where, he can recover and become the player that he used to be. I hope it's not another torn ACL because I felt so bad for him this game when he went down injured. And you just saw him, tearing up in the sidelines. He was very happy when they won, obviously, too. But I kind of want to leave it at that, guys. So that's kind of my recap of the game. Like I said, comment on this, of course, if you can, that'd be great. But like I said, give your feedback on this, guys. Like I said, I thought it was a great Super Bowl. Some people are disappointed with, the lack of scoring, I guess. But I mean, they still scored 43 combined. It by any means wasn't a boring game. I thought it was very, very close throughout, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, guys. So I appreciate it. Like I said, comment your opinion.